Hi, this is Mark Black, speaker, author, resilience expert, and heart and double lung transplant recipient. Here today to talk to you a little bit about the patient perspective in healthcare. I am sure that as a healthcare professional, you are very well aware of how important it is to connect in a meaningful way with your patients and to make sure that the patient understands just how much you care. I know that you care because I've had the pleasure to work with thousands of healthcare professionals. But the average patient who's maybe only been in once or twice or is having one of their first interactions with the healthcare system needs to know that so that they can connect with you in a way that matters and therefore build the trust and the relationship necessary so that you can have the best outcome, they can have the best outcome. I've had the privilege in my life to meet many, many healthcare providers, certainly through my career as a speaker, but previous to that in my personal health journey. I had a congenital heart defect, so I was in hospitals from the day I was born until ultimately I had a heart and lung transplant in 2002. And leading up to that transplant, I spent 6 months in an inpatient cardiac unit. And I got to see behind the scenes of what it's like to be a healthcare provider day in and day out and the stresses that you all deal with. But I also got to watch the incredible healthcare providers who went the extra mile and made the little sacrifices and the little extra efforts that ultimately created big results for their patients. And I wanted to share a couple of those things with you today. And so the first one to think about is to remember to focus on principles versus policies. And what I mean by that is simply to focus on the big picture versus the bureaucracy and procedures that can sometimes get in the way of the ultimate goal. So for example, I've had experiences where the policy or the procedure in that unit would be to do things a certain way. But because a nurse or another healthcare professional recognized that in my circumstance, that policy or procedure didn't fit particularly well and that we could accomplish the same goal via a different route, they were open to doing that. So for example, often as a cardiac patient, I would be the only person under 20 or then under 30 in a ward where most of the patients were 60, 70 years old. And so they might have policies and guidelines around what time people went to bed or the schedules that they encourage people to do their exercise on or whatever. The nurses who recognized that ultimately the goal was about getting me to do what I needed to do and getting me healthy again would adjust the policy or the process based on the given circumstance, right? And understand that what was best for me was maybe not best for the typical patient on that ward. So it's about understanding what the ultimate goal is versus what the procedure or policy is. Secondly, is being a human being first and a healthcare provider second. Obviously, you need to do your job and you want to do it with excellence. But my experience as a patient has been that the healthcare providers who were able to connect with me on a personal level, who were able to share, a little tidbit about what was going on in the world or what was happening in their life or connect with me about something that was happening in my life made a remarkable difference in terms of the rapport that we had with each other. Obviously, when you build rapport, you build trust. And when you build trust, the patient is more likely to follow directions and do what you ask them to do, is more cooperative, etc. Those little conversations that add a little bit of personality and a little bit of human touch to the healthcare experience can actually make a tremendous difference. In the same vein, treating a patient like a person first and a patient second has a tremendous impact. So I always appreciated the healthcare providers who approached me with the perspective that I was just another human being, just like they were, who happened to be going through a health situation at that time. I wasn't a set of symptoms. I wasn't a disease. I was a person dealing with a health challenge. When they treated me that way, I always responded better because I didn't want to be defined by my disease or my healthcare challenge. I just wanted to be another person. Finally, I think if you can focus on ultimate destiny, that's not too big a word, the ultimate goal for that patient versus the immediate crisis, when you're having conversations, that can be really helpful too. Again, we need to be realistic. Patients need to understand what they're going to be dealing with in the immediate future if they're going for a procedure, etc. But at the same time, understand that this is hopefully a small piece of their life. It's not what defines who they are. And when you treat me like, a person who has got a life outside of these four walls of the hospital, it makes a massive difference. Keeps my hope up, keeps my encouragement up, which again is going to help with outcomes as well. So I hope those little tips are helpful for you. Human being first, healthcare professional second, remembering the principles, the ultimate goal over the policies and procedures, and remembering that the patient is a human being as well, and not just a set of symptoms. There are all those little soft skill touches that can make a tremendous difference in outcomes for your patients and just in the overall healthcare experience for your patients. I want to thank you for what you do. I appreciate so much the work that you do. And if I can ever be of service, you can find me at MarkBlack.ca. I have a podcast as well called Level Up Your Life. And if I can be of service, I'd love to do that. Thank you so much for what you do. Take care.